Saturday's the first, right?
Saturday. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's the first. I'm going to get my new headshots.
Gonna get my new headshots. I'm gonna get my new headshots.
Oh, yes.
Gonna sit right down in front of the photographer out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my headshots today.
Yep, gonna be shiny and pretty for Central PA Town.
Did they put some powder on your dome?
I hope so.
Powder that dome.
It's gonna look like my third grade picture when my mom cut my fro off. I was pissed. And then I don't think I have front teeth, so I didn't smile. I looked like a presidential candidate.
When did you give up and shave all your hair off?
In 1999.
Okay.
It was going gray.
Yeah.
And I was like, screw this. So I went to the barber and I was like, just shave it off.
Yeah.
And he did it with a straight razor. And I was like, is this how smooth it's going to be all the time?
Nope.
No.
Nope. That takes work.
Oh my God. That was the best. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I see why guys like getting a shave with those. It was pretty. The funny thing is, the top of my head was lighter than the rest of me. So I looked like a felt tip.
How did that happen? Just
because
like
it covers.
It wasn't exposed to sunlight.
It wasn't exposed to sunlight. So I was like, I could be this light? Man. No.
You're like an early 90s rapper.
Oh my God, man. The good old days.
Oh.
Yeah.
This conversation has already started. We're 3 minutes in.
3 minutes in. Yeah.
So that's already 3 minutes of conversation about your dome.
Yeah. Gotta talk about Paul's head for 5 minutes.
Just vamp.
Yeah.
Just vamp. 5 minutes on Paul's head.
I feel like I'm sliding out of this chair, man.
I greased it before you came. That's why.
More oil?
All right, welcome folks to Cinema Double Shot. I'm Wallace McKelvey. I'm a journalist and filmmaker, and today I am delighted to have Paul Hood, my collaborator on our first feature film, River City Stories, an educator, a playwright, an actor, a stage director, an all-around fantastic person. Introduce yourself, and now that I've introduced you,
You just did everything. So. No, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Wallace. Paul Hood, of course. Yeah, I am a Harrisburg resident, and I'm just happy to be here with Wallace, talking about something we're both passionate about, which is movies.
Movies.
Yeah.
And not just any kind of movie, but biopics.
Biopics, yes.
The movies that are constantly up for Oscars.
Yes. It takes a lot to portray someone else, especially someone that has accomplished a lot. I wonder, like, it would be cool to like see how actors prepare for these types of roles, like what Timothée Chalamet just did with Bob Dylan. Like,
yeah,
and he actually sang the songs. He sang them himself. He didn't have a voice. Nothing was dubbed in or anything.
Well, his whole hook, so A Complete Unknown by James Mangold is up for a slew of Oscars.
Yes.
Including an Oscar nomination for Timothée Chalamet.
Why does his name sound like a really fancy board game?
Because I don't know. He's some kind of French.
Yes. Would you like to play a game of Chalamet?
Actually, to me it reminds me of like a perfume.
Oh
like
yeah, good.
Shalimar, or maybe a '70s like soul group.
Yeah.
Shalimar coming to the Hershey Stadium.
You have to be a great actor with a name like that. Could you imagine having a really cool like name that rolls off your tongue like Timothée Chalamet, and you're a terrible actor?
It's not possible. Fortunately for Timothée, he is a really fantastic actor.
He is amazing. He's the next big movie star. Like he's like a legitimate movie star. Like he just has the whole package. And it's kind of maddening.
Well, no, I remember. I think I first saw him in the movie Lady Bird.
Oh wow, yes,
by Greta Gerwig.
Yeah,
it's one of those roles where you're like, oh, that kid's talented. Mm-hmm. He's in it for like 5 minutes basically.
Yeah.
And then the next thing was Call Me by Your Name,
mm-hmm.
which he was fantastic.
Fantastic, yes.
That is a great film by
mm-hmm.
Luca Guadagnino, and he's fabulous in it.
Nice.
And then he did this detour into the Dune movies. It
mm-hmm.
seems like he's setting himself up for big stardom.
Yeah.
But he keeps doing the little movies along the way.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing. I think that's a great thing for actors to do, is to do the big budget movies that have great stories. Just, don't do the ones that have bad stories. It's all about stories.
Well, for Oscars, it doesn't have to be a great story. Bohemian Rhapsody is not a good biopic.
No, but the
yet
performance,
it got a bunch of awards.
Yeah, it was watchable. I'm less, although I used to do film criticism back in the early 2000s. And I've gotten away from it, obviously, because of all the other stuff I'm involved in. But I don't know. I felt like a lot of those movies and Wallace and I, this is why we work well together, is because we can bounce different ideas off of each other. And even if none of them resonate,
we just cook.
Yes. Let them cook. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We do that. Yeah.
But so one of the things behind Timothée, I can't Adam Sandler did a whole bit about his name, and I don't even know how to pronounce his name anymore because of Adam Sandler.
Oh, it's funny you say that, because last night on SNL.
Oh, that's right, he was on SNL.
Yeah,
last
Timothée Chalamet.
Shalimar.
Chalamet. He was the host and the musical guest.
Yeah.
And guess who introduced him?
Oh, Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler.
Damn! All right, I need to catch up on that.
Yeah.
But his whole thing was he learned guitar. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he sang at some point, but he wasn't a trained singer.
Yeah.
All those things that go into that performance, mm-hmm. he learned how to do. Yes. And that's been his calling card this award season.
Yeah. If
he wins, which he might.
I honestly, I'd be surprised if he doesn't. At this point, just seeing and nothing against any of the other actors that had great performances this year, but the way he immersed himself into Bob Dylan's soul was pretty remarkable. As I was watching the movie, I'm thinking to myself, I forgot I was watching Timothée Chalamet play Dylan.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wait, this is somebody portraying Bob Dylan. This isn't a young Bob Dylan, hanging out in the village in the 60s.
Yeah, it transcends impersonation and reaches. You're just there with a guy.
Yeah.
And one thing I really liked about that film, because it is portraying the young Bob Dylan before Bob Dylan became an icon, just in the first couple years of his career, is the way that both the film and the way that it was scripted and paced, and in the performance, he just it's kind of a warts and all kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's kind of callow and doesn't treat women well, and selfish.
Yeah.
And
like most
yet,
artists.
right?
Yeah.
And yet he can also craft these songs that are just so beautiful and contain playful wordplay, and he can, there's that scene where he's in Joan Baez's apartment,
Yes.
and she's like, "Are you just trying to impress me that you can write a song in 5 minutes?" But no, that's what Bob Dylan
That's what
was
he
doing.
did. Yeah, he actually would sit down and he could craft amazing poetry. Just, yeah, it was in. It's funny that I mentioned that because in one of my plays, The Sequin Royale, the character Wayne is a huge Bob Dylan fan, and he says this line where he's like, "The poems are in his skin. They come out of him, like they're a part of him."
Yeah.
And that's like, watching A Complete Unknown, I was like, wow, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing how he created a lot of his music, and it was just very organic and very,
And then, of course, for the rest of his day, he's like hanging out in his boxer shorts.
Hanging out in his boxer
while
shorts.
His various girlfriends are taking care of everything else.
Yeah.
So.
James Mangold and his team did a marvelous job of placing you in the village in 1960. What was it? 1960.
Yeah, it was like 1961ish to 1965.
It was early 60s. Yeah. It was a great.
And those are those are my favorite biopics.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a fan of the ones that go from cradle to grave.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to condense the entirety of a person's life into 2 hours, or if you're really indulgent, 2.5, 3 hours, or if you're the Brutalist, which is not technically a biopic, but it seems like it's structured in that way. Yeah. 4 hours.
I see, and this is where Wallace and I disagree. I want to see.
You want to see everything?
I want an epic following of these very interesting people. I want an epic following of their whole life. Like, obviously you can't squeeze in everything, but I'm kind of, and I haven't seen The Brutalist yet, which is on my list.
We have to find 4 hours.
We have to find 4 hours in our very busy lives to, block out an amount of time to see it. But I like the epic biopic. Like, I'm just a fan of that. Like, we were talking about, we were mentioning movies that have intermissions. Malcolm X's, Spike Lee's Malcolm X is one of the movies that came up. And that was Spike Lee did a really good job of showing the pivotal moments of his life.
Yeah.
And, that comes in at 3 hours. I had an intermission. I'll never forget when I went to see that. I think I was in high school or just graduated. And me and a friend went to see this, and we were like, there's an intermission? It's just like, it was mind-blowing to us that there was an intermission at a movie theater, at an AMC.
Well, and I'm just a smidge younger than you, just a smidge. I saw that movie on DVD, so I didn't see the intermission. I just sat for 3 hours with Denzel.
But did it feel like 3 hours?
No, no. And the nice thing about that movie, the way it's structured, is that while it is like episodic, it develops the side characters.
Yes.
It creates this whole world, and that film is probably the example of the epic biopic that is acceptable to me. Because it's not giving you everything. It is giving you these snapshots in time, and I kind of like that. On the obverse, like, I'm not a big fan of Ray with Jamie Foxx.
Ray was a little abstract, but I think that's what I liked about it, because it showed his life, but in this really very abstract, not too straightforward way, kind of non-linear. You know which one I didn't enjoy was, speaking of non-linear and very abstract, is the one about, why am I going, Rocketman.
Oh yeah,
Rocketman. I was so excited because it's so the amount of music that came from, why am I forgetting the artist's name?
Elton John.
Elton John.
Elton John. That's okay. We're here. We got each other's backs.
Elton John. Wow. The amount of music and creativity that Elton John, came out with. I want to see him from, his early days. I just want to see him. I wanted to see a more linear construction of that.
So you wanted something more in the line of Bohemian Rhapsody, what that did.
Yeah.
For Queen.
Yeah.
And
Elton John had a lot of conflict and a lot of things he was dealing with, stuff with his father and all that, things like that. That I think they kind of show it, but I was like glossed over. And I was like, well, that's what made him the artist that he is now. I think wrestling with his identity and his sexuality and all that, and standing up to his father, who was like not a very warm person, and that's where we get all these wonderful songs from.
Yeah. Well, I think if I could give you a hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, a lot of the biopics that we're getting are these like heroes of the baby boom generation, and the people who are the subjects of those films, are still alive. Yeah. This also applies. I said documentary. I didn't mean to, but it also applies to many of the documentaries that are coming out now about people who are still alive.
Yes.
Elton John is still alive, and he was involved in that production. With the Queen biopic, Freddie Mercury is obviously gone.
Yes.
But you know who was a producer on that film?
No, who?
The manager for Queen. The longtime manager and attorney for Queen.
Wow.
Was the executive producer of that film. And guess what? You don't really get a fully fleshed out, authentic portrayal of Freddie Mercury and Queen and some of the more interesting conflicts and dynamics. You get a very glossy, PR-friendly version of that life. Yeah. Much like I would hypothesize with the Elton John biopic, you get a very glossy version of that life, which has had some really great musical numbers. Yes. They were very inventive, the production design and the choreography.
I think it would have been better
really
as a musical.
Yeah, which it kind of is.
It is, yes, musical, yeah.
But it's not, it's weird. You go into these biopics expecting some degree of, the candid behind the scenes thing. Yeah. And it can go one of two ways. Sometimes it can either not give you any of that, which I would argue the Elton John biopic doesn't give you a whole lot. Yeah. There's I think there's like one scene with cocaine, maybe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, see,
but
and that's
it doesn't go into like all the stuff that was going on.
I want to see the moment where he's hanging out with who is he hanging out with? They were in a room, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the artist he was hanging out with, but it was like a big. I think it was. I don't want to get this incorrect.
That's all right. It's a podcast.
Yeah, I think it was John. It was John Lennon. John Lennon, and this is in his documentary, which is on. I think it's on HBO Max now, or just Max.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
It's corporate law.
Yeah. They were hanging out in the hotel room, getting higher than the moon on coke, and Andy Warhol comes to the door, and he's knocking on the door. He wants to come in and hang out with John Lennon and Elton John and take pictures, and they were so high they just kind of like they were like, nah, don't let him in. So Andy
I don't
Rose,
think that was in the film though.
no, that was in the documentary.
But it wasn't in the
But
film.
stuff like that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
At. That's my whole point.
That's the stuff that they leave out.
I
because
want to see the dirt of
Yeah.
someone's life. I want to see.
Unfortunately, you're not going to see the dirt
Yeah.
in many of these like big glossy Hollywood productions.
Yeah.
Especially if the person's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
One of my issues that I had with Bohemian Rhapsody, as good as Rami Malek's performance was, I do think that was a good performance.
Yeah.
Especially that last sequence, the big performance set piece.
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah.
Was beautifully shot and staged, and Rami Malek did a wonderful job of inhabiting Freddie Mercury. But the film up to that point was just all over the place. And oddly enough, it seemed like that film to me was almost patronizing of Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
It didn't give a complex view of Freddie Mercury. In fact, it featured all these little scenes where other bandmates and the manager were saying, "Oh, Freddie, you need to pace yourself. You're going to die." And it struck me as a film that was made by the other people in Freddie Mercury's life, talking down to him.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And it painted the other bandmates as if they were all angels.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were, based on the limited research I did after the fact, because I was kind of angry.
Yeah.
I looked up.
The whole the idea of not loving yourself could have you get something like AIDS. That was a little like that was one part
a little too simple.
Yeah.
A little simplistic.
Yeah, that's the one part. That's one of the criticisms I have about that particular plot, the moment in the plot in that movie was, there are people who struggle with self-esteem issues like Freddie Mercury, even someone of his star caliber, and that doesn't mean that they're gonna. It was almost like they were saying, "Love yourself, or else,
or you're going to die,
or you're gonna die." It's like, come on, man! Like, there's therapy. There's people get through things and live and thrive. But that was the one part I was like, oh, that's a little harsh. So yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't, and that speaks to what I'm saying is like the biopics, they kind of give you the most simple version of a person's life. Yeah. And they tend to have these familiar plot beats. Mm-hmm. Like Ray, I think, is a great example of this, where it's cradle to grave. Yeah, there's some intercutting and there's like little dream sequences, right? Yeah. But it starts with his birth, the rising action of his inner struggles, becoming blind and adapting to it, having his first couple big breaks. Oh, and then he becomes addicted to drugs and faces more struggles. And then on the other side of it, he comes through after Regina King dies. Yeah. Regina King, who is fucking great.
She was amazing in that movie. Yes.
Fantastic. I love Regina King.
Yes, Regina King, please work with us.
Come work with us.
Yes, have your people call our people and let's do something. I don't care what it is.
I've been a fan of you since the Boondocks.
Yes. Yeah. she's an amazing actor.
But those familiar beats,
Mm-hmm.
like Ray is a good illustration of like the rising tension, the breakthrough, the complication, the fall from grace, and then the rise again.
Yeah. That's the formulaic design of a biopic.
Of so many.
Yeah. And that's what makes A Complete Unknown pretty remarkable. Is it takes that chunk of Dylan's life that was significant when he switched to playing electric guitar. Yeah. Like, people were like, what is this? Like, who are you? Like, where's the folk hero, the folk song hero that we were supposed to be given? So, yeah, it was...
It's funny the way that A Complete Unknown is set up. I could envision James Mangold and the studio doing a different movie for each 5-year segment of Bob Dylan's life.
Wow.
It could be the Bob Dylan cinematic universe.
That's the director's cut on top of the director's cut.
Right?
With the director's cut.
Like this, they could do this episodically and follow Timothée Chalamet through 5-year increments of Bob Dylan's life.
Because, the Chalamet effect.
Yeah, because actually the first 5 years isn't necessarily the most interesting part of his life.
He just kind of
he had other chapters that were arguably more interesting. I wonder if maybe they'll do that. That would be really cool. If you do, you heard it here first. Give me royalty checks.
Let's do it. Let's release these in the theaters too. We don't want it to go right to streaming. We want to go to the movies and see these.
Yeah, and the movie, A Complete Unknown, it wasn't a huge hit.
Yeah,
but it was a big enough hit. I think they could probably get away with doing some more like that.
I feel like a lot of the Oscar-nominated films are never like these huge. There's exceptions, of course, but I feel like they're never really these huge hits because I feel like audiences. First of all, movies are some people with streaming now. People they're missing a lot of things because it takes so long for these huge movies to come to streaming, and a lot of people don't want to go to the movies anymore, which is unfortunate because there's nothing like sitting in a theater with this huge screen, the smell of popcorn, and everyone's quiet. When you watch it at home, somebody's always talking. Stop talking to me while I'm watching movies.
but there's also something really magical when you're in a screening room in a theater with a packed audience, and everyone laughs at the right moments. They go silent at the right moments.
They gasp at the right moments.
They gasp.
Yes.
Like there's something really beautiful about the communal experience of movie going that I freaking love. And not to get too navel gazing, but the first screening of River City Stories.
Yeah, see River City Stories. By the way, I got to plug.
I'm
going to plug.
Plug away.
All right, so River City Stories, which we were lucky enough to be accepted for the Harrisburg Fringe Festival for 2024. The audience response was amazing. People came out. They loved the movie. We are lined up some more screenings for this spring and March. We're going to do at the West Shore Theater. West Shore Theater, we're going to do a screening on Friday, March 7th, and then again on Sunday, March 9th.
I'll drop the links in the description for this episode on the podcast platforms and in the description on YouTube. If you live anywhere in central Pennsylvania, come on out and see it, and you'll get to experience the scintillating conversation in person. In
person, yes.
And also see the first hour and 15 minutes or so of our feature film.
Yes. So River City Stories has been a labor of love for Wallace and I. So please come out. Even if you don't live in central PA, if you live anywhere in the tri-state area, come on down.
Come on down.
Yes. Or up. But
up, down, sideways, no matter which of the cardinal directions you need to take, come to New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, to the West Shore Theater. It's also this fabulous Art Deco style movie house with beautiful neon sign.
Oh my
it
gosh.
is freaking lovely.
It's a wonderful theater. They've done a great job of renovating it and bringing it back to life.
Yeah.
And New Cumberland's become like a little like
it's cool.
Kind of a little cool little spot.
They've got a couple nerd shops. Yeah. They've got really nice gift shops. Yeah. They've got a nice brew and distillery next door to
what's
the
it?
Dead Lightning?
Dead Lightning and White Rabbit?
I'm not familiar with the White Rabbit.
I hope I'm getting the name right. But
that's all right.
Yeah. It's a really cool restaurant right across from the theater. So, yeah. see River City Stories with us this spring.
At West Shore Theater,
West Shore
March 7th and March 9th.
Yes.
And hopefully you can experience what I just described again.
Yes.
But there is something really magical about being in a packed theater and having that communal experience with other people. I just love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But back to biopics, because I want to ask you about a biopic that you might not have seen.
Oh.
Have you seen Notorious?
I have. The Notorious B.I.G. film.
I love that one.
Yeah.
See, that's...
Wait, who plays him again?
I don't know the actor's name. We got to look it up. I'm
all
sorry.
right. Keep vamping. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but all right. So that is a great example of taking a piece of someone's life and the most pivotal moment of their life and leading up to that. Very straightforward. There was nothing fancy about it, which is kind of cool because hip hop in the 90s wasn't very fancy, and that's what made it great. I think a lot of hip hop now is kind of like, it's a little too overproduced and kind of too clean.
I hear that.
Yeah, I like basement hip hop. I like a mic, turntable, dude smoking.
2 turntables and a microphone.
Dudes and the producer smoking a blunt, telling the artist how to say something, and dudes in the back drinking beer. The room is smoky, it's funky, and it's just like, that's hip hop to me.
I will say this: I'm more of a fan of like the Roots and Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah, those are
and
great.
Like those and Slum Village.
Very jazz influence.
Yeah, I like the more kind of melodic jazz.
Yeah,
jazz infused hip
hop. But
the
boom bap hip hop, the punch you in your face,
not the I'm cool like that.
Yeah. That's what Chris Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls, rest in peace. That's what he represented. But I think that particular movie was a really good example of like
I remember that movie.
How hip hop.
And I remember liking. So the actor who played Biggie was Jamal Woolard.
Yes.
It doesn't look like he's done that much since.
Which I'm surprised because he's great.
Yeah, he reprised the role in the Tupac Shakur biopic, All Eyes on Me. Yeah. But it doesn't look like he's done too much. He's also a rapper himself, which probably added to the sense of like it added to his performance ability because he has done it before.
Yeah, he's done it, and it's hard to do, because Biggie, his voice, he has such an original like delivery and cadence, and it's hard to like emulate that.
Yes,
and Jamal Woolard is his name.
Jamal Woolard.
Jamal Woolard does a great job of portraying that. But I really, and I like that they didn't make it too abstract and too fancy and too like, they showed the dirt of his life.
I might have to rewatch this film.
It's really
I saw
good.
it when it came out.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the cast. The cast is stacked.
Yeah.
You got Anthony Mackie as Tupac. You got Derek Luke as Diddy, which we're not going to talk about Diddy. Notorious Naughton from 3LW plays Lil' Kim.
Yeah.
And the Queen, Angela Bassett.
As his mother.
Yep. Who is I freaking love Angela Bassett. I got to meet her.
You met Angela Bassett?
I met Angela Bassett.
He never told me this.
I haven't?
We've worked together, 5-6 years? This guy's never told me he met Angela Bassett?
I met her. So one of my good friends.
You can't leave details of your life.
Sorry.
See, this is why we're talking about biopics, because Wallace needs to start placing things in his life as far as information that he can share with me and not leave stuff out. You can't leave things out like that.
All right, I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version of this story. But I So I've loved Angela Bassett for a very long time. Like, my love of her starts with a biopic, What's Love Got to Do with It,
Yes.
in which she played Tina Turner and played her magnificently.
Yes, this is a great
Like, that
performance.
is one of the best performances, period, of the last several decades.
Yeah.
She's really wonderful in that biopic. And she just inhabited the role. She got the performance down. You know, a really magnificent performance.
Mm-hmm.
I also love her. She played a badass, kick-ass action queen in Strange Days.
I've never seen that.
You've got to see Strange
Right,
Days. Yeah. That is also, like, that's in my top, I'll be honest, it's like in my top 50, but I've seen a lot of movies. It's in my top 50 movies of all time. But Angela Bassett is a kick-ass limo driver in the movie Strange Days.
All right, I got to see
rescues Rafe Fiennes' ass multiple times in that movie.
Wow.
She is great. That movie was not a hit when it came out. Y'all need to see Strange Days, though. I'm getting off topic, but Strange Days is freaking fantastic.
And
Angela
I'm gonna
Bassett
put that in my
deserved
catalog.
an Oscar nomination for that movie.
Nice.
Or at least a bigger check.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been following Angela Bassett for a long time. I've been a fan of hers since I was a kid. And my friend Trudy and I, we used to go up to Broadway to see a lot of Broadway performances. Because one thing that she liked to do, she liked to go up there, see a play, and then hang out at the stage door and wait for people to come out and get their autographs on, you know, in your playbill. So we did that a fair bit. I saw some really great plays up there. I got to meet some really wonderful actors and actresses. I met Sam Jackson.
Wow.
I met who else? Gosh, I wouldn't say I met him, but I had a brief encounter with Woody Allen at the stage door.
All right, so Woody
Allen didn't say anything. He just walked by me.
Woody Allen is one of those. Woody
Allen is complicated.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Woody Allen, despite his misgivings. But he's one of those. You know how they say, "Don't meet your heroes" or something. What's that?
Woody Allen, he's just a man.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a comfortable meeting.
The way I have decided to handle the Woody Allen-ness of it all is. Yeah. I'm never going to pay to see another of his movies because there's just too many questions. Yeah. But I can still respect the good work that he did.
Yeah. And let me backtrack. Alleged misgivings.
Alleged.
Alleged. We don't know. No one knows what really happened. But I love his work. But I know as a person, I've heard that meeting him is...
Yeah, well,
it could go one or two ways.
He didn't do any dirt to me. He just walked past me. Yeah. Getting back to the main anecdote, though. So I was hanging out. She was performing in the play about MLK's life, where it was like the play was kind of a backstage drama about. MLK before he gave...
Was it the Mountaintop?
The Mountaintop speech.
The Mountaintop.
Yeah, it was before the Mountaintop speech. And she was in that play. That play, unfortunately, was sold out, so I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, it's a really powerful piece.
Yeah, so I didn't get to see her on stage, but Trudy and I went to a different play, and then she was like, well, you know Angela is in this other one. I was like, well, hell, let's see if we can meet her. Yeah. We hung out at the stage door as that play was getting out, and she came out and she signed autographs. I got a photo with her, and she was honestly perhaps the best celebrity encounter I have ever had. She was so sweet. Yeah. I was nervous because this was like a good decade or two ago. I was still a baby, like 21, 22-ish.
And you're not as smooth and refined as you are now, like when you meet celebrities.
I'm not smooth. Yeah. Currently, I was less smooth then. And but we had a little substantive conversation because I was like, I rattled off all the things that I loved about her, and I was like, I really wish that you had bigger roles in movies. because I want to see more. I would, and she was like, "Honey, me too."
Wow. Yeah.
Like she engaged with that because I was just kind of, I was honest and I was loving of what she's done. Yeah. And she had just an honest reaction. She's like, "Oh, honey, me too." Yeah. And she added, like, "If you have a role for me, send it my way."
Well,
which I haven't done. But
we are really good screenwriters, and we could craft a role for you. So,
and this
how
was,
do people call our people?
This was before I started making movies,
yeah.
like on the regular. This was when I was interested in movies. I was wanting to write scripts, but I hadn't actually done anything. That's when I met her. And, you know, who knows? We can dream. Yes. Angela, if you or your people are watching, have your people call our people.
Exactly.
We've got a role for you.
We've got a role for you. And we can make a role for you. We can create one. So.
But also, Angela has had a real come up in the last, like, since that encounter at the stage door on Broadway. Like, she's in this show 911, and she's been in Black Panther, although I wish that Marvel would give her more to do than just be sad mama.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I'm like,
we don't want to see the sad mama anymore. It's like,
Angela kicks ass. Can you please give her something more dynamic to do than play the sad queen?
Yes.
Please.
Dynamic roles for black women in film and theater. Just period. Let's make that happen.
So I love Angela Bassett, and she was so wonderful to meet in person. And she's also in one of the best biopics of all time. Yeah. So it's relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, it is very relevant. Not to just a sidebar real quick. Lawrence Fishburne was great as Ike.
Yes.
Yeah, and Lawrence Fishburne is another great theater actor.
And that was a tough role to play because Ike was a nasty piece of work.
Ike Turner was like no joke. I wouldn't want to be in a studio with Ike Turner. I'd be like, Mr. Turner, are you sure that was the way you wanted that to go?
But the film did, I think, a pretty good job of depicting the frog in boiling water sense of the way that narcissists work, where they kind of lure you in, they love bomb you, they win you over with this sense of belonging and, oh, I can take you places, and then gradually they test the boundaries. Mm-hmm. Things get worse, things get worse, things get worse.
And then you're locked into
and then you're locked into it.
Locked into that whole cycle of abuse and that,
Yeah.
And that movie really does a fine job of showing the harrowing effects of that. But also the other side of it, of coming out of it.
Yeah.
And becoming like this really strong person like Tina Turner was. Like, she's the epitome of strength in, for women in the arts and trying to make their own way. And it's a really inspiring biopic per se. So this is that's a good one, Wallace. That's a good pick. I'm mad I didn't think of it. I'm kind of jealous.
Are there other biopics that we haven't covered yet that like resonate with you?
All right, so this one I'm just gonna throw in the flame or whatever, the box.
Throw it in the pot.
With the Aviator, the one about Howard Hughes, Scorsese, who we all love. I love Scorsese. I thought Leonardo DiCaprio did a great job of showing how mentally unstable Howard Hughes was. And Scorsese, I like the way he shot the film. The writing was great. I don't know. I forgot who the screenwriter was on that.
I don't know offhand.
But that's another one that I think people have forgotten about. The Aviator was a really...
And the supporting cast, especially Cate Blanchett playing, doesn't have a ton to do, to be honest, but her Katharine Hepburn is not really a fully it's not quite mimicry. Like she doesn't quite capture the mid-Atlantic cadence that Katharine Hepburn was known for.
Yeah.
But she captures the spirit of her, and like it. In some ways, it's almost a caricature, but it's a really good one.
Yeah.
Of Katharine Hepburn. Yeah, I dig that movie.
Yeah, The Aviator is a good one.
If we're going to go to biopics by Martin Scorsese, the one that I love more than that is Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yes.
Which is the gonzo, like almost slapstick story of the life of Jordan Belfort, a Wall Street basically scam artist.
Big time scam
artist. Played by Leonardo DiCaprio beautifully.
Yes.
And it has a great supporting cast as well. And basically his life running this cocaine-fueled empire in New York City.
I love that Scorsese took the comedic angle with it. It doesn't take itself too serious.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it engaging, I think. Like,
yeah, I mean that sequence where he takes Quaaludes and has to get in the car.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
that is some Buster Keaton shit. Yeah. And I love it. Yeah. That was one of my favorite movies whatever year it was it came out.
Yeah.
Just because of how bonkers it is.
It's almost unbelievable that somebody ran a company in that manner.
I mean, yeah. Fasten your seatbelts. We're probably about to see more of that.
Oh yeah.
We don't need to go there.
Yeah, the biopics from this whole era, the last decade is.
We are heading into a new gilded age.
Yes.
And so there will be plenty of good material to come out of it.
A lot of good material. Speaking of good material, this is a good way to jump into the conversation we had about biopics that we want to see.
That we want to make.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, see someone else make it, or make it
ourselves.
When we're done with River City Stories.
So, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So, I was lucky enough to recently direct a production of The Piano Lesson written by the incredible August Wilson. Thank you, Jeremiah Miller and Lancaster Shakespeare Theater Company, for giving me that opportunity to work on such an amazing piece of work.
Support your local theater companies.
Support your local theater companies, please, especially the smaller ones. They need all the support that they can get. But I want to see a biopic about the life of August Wilson.
Yeah.
I think that would be, I think would do a great job with it. I think Spike Lee would. I think that seems like I don't know what other director could take that on, but I feel like Spike Lee would do a great job with showing us the ups and downs and the trials that August Wilson faced as someone who didn't even graduate from high school.
Yeah.
He left high school and he became like this icon.
And he didn't become an icon though. He you on your suggestion, I read that like 400-page biography.
And I would have been fine with an 800,000 page. When I finished reading it, I was like, I want more. Like I wanted more. So, but it was a great biography.
But the thing about that story that I find inspiring myself is like he didn't really become famous until he was well into his late 30s, 40s. Mm-hmm. Even then, like he wasn't. It took him a long time to.
In the public, he wasn't famous, but like in the theater world, coming from the O'Neill, the O'Neill Festival and the O'Neill who rejects everyone. I've been rejected by the O'Neill at least twice. But
but it took him a long time, and it was a real uphill battle for him. And the whole time, and one thing I loved about the book, it is August Wilson, A Life by Patty Hartigan.
Patty Hartigan
is the name of the book. I recommend it if you're interested in August Wilson, but also if you're just interested in art. It is a great look behind the curtain at like an artist's life. Yeah. But the whole time it's funny, the book documents his self-doubt. Mm-hmm. How much he struggled in order to, even with himself, to be like, I'm good enough for these things.
Yeah. And he was battling, a lot of racism, and that right there is what made him. Going back to not meeting your heroes, I think meeting August Wilson would have been kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because he's very blunt.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Jason Ward-Williams, who's an amazing actor, he's been in several movies playing supporting roles. He told me he had a chance to meet August Wilson, and he was talking about a role he wanted to play in one of his plays, and August flat out said, "I wouldn't have cast you either." And I can't remember, forgive me, but I can't remember what role he was thinking about or he had auditioned for and didn't get it. And he's like, yeah, I auditioned for that role in that play. And August was like, well, I wouldn't have cast you either. That was just how he was. And
that is not what you want to hear from your hero.
And Jason's a great actor. Like this guy, I went to school with him, Arts Magna School.
Yeah.
And everyone could see he's a little different. He's on a different plane.
Yeah.
And he's gonna make it. And he's doing major motion pictures, working with, he did a movie with Richard Gere, and he's worked with Kevin Hart. He had a small part in one of Kevin Hart's movies. Well, yeah, he's done a lot of great things, but that was the
that's the kind of thing is like if you get told by your hero that you're not good. Mm-hmm. That stings. That leaves a lasting impression on you. Yeah. But I have a feeling August Wilson, the book does a nice job of like, he's kind of a piece of work.
Yeah.
He was not a nice guy.
Yeah.
To many of his people in his orbit. But the book also gives you a sense of why.
Yes.
How did he become this person?
Yes. And that's what the biopic needs to show. I hope if it ever happens, because we're.
I think it might. Yeah. I mean, Denzel Washington and his son Malcolm are going through the whole cycle right now.
Yes.
And they're adapting all of those Pittsburgh plays. Mm-hmm. I could see them at the end of it doing a biopic.
That would be great.
But I agree with you. I think Spike Lee, I would want to see Spike Lee's version.
Yeah.
Because he would not try to sugarcoat anything.
No. Like what he did with Malcolm X.
Warts and all.
Yeah. I think he'd give you, and visually, if Ernest Dickerson's behind the lens, visually, it would be just like Malcolm X was. It was amazing visually. Like just to see all the different colors and seeing Pittsburgh in that time period when it was really like a steel city and still like really gritty, and growing up in that.
And there's a real sense of community, which in some sense in the book isn't quite fully fleshed out because it's mostly focused on August.
Yeah.
But I could see Spike Lee, much as he did with the movie Malcolm X, is creating more fully fleshed out characters on the periphery.
Yeah.
Because August was part of a larger movement.
Yes.
It wasn't just him. He came to embody and represent the movement. He became the most famous figure of it. But like he came out of a vibrant theater movement in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And among African American playwrights. So I could see Spike Lee doing something really interesting with the whole scene.
Yes.
Especially like the Jitney era, like when August was still on the come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the script would have to be epic. It'd have to be like a 130-page behemoth. I want to just see like his whole life on the screen. So.
Yeah.
But so that's my pick for ones we want to see. So
my pick is Nina Simone.
Yes.
I want to adapt the life of Nina Simone. There has already been a film version that had Zoe Saldana as Nina.
Yeah.
That version is not very good.
Not very good.
It's not very good. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's, as I like to say, it's middling.
Yeah.
But middling. But Nina Simone is a very just a fascinating figure who straddles the world of the civil rights movement and jazz, and was really like, she was there for many pivotal moments in American history.
And she had some internal struggles that were very relatable
Yeah.
as a black artist in that time period.
So I first became fascinated with her in, I think I got her greatest hits album when I was still in middle school, and I listened to that like 12-track greatest hits album over and over and over and over again, because I loved her voice and I loved her songwriting, like Sinner Man and Mississippi Goddamn, and the way that she would phrase even standards, the way that she would make them her own. It would be like a totally different song for when she covered songs. And there's a real sense of you, even before you know anything about her personal life, listening to her music itself is autobiographical.
Yes.
You understand the pain that she is singing. Like when she's singing, covering Wild as the Wind.
Yeah.
You are feeling the yearning and the desperation and the grief in her rendition of Wild as the Wind.
That was one of the things that was really fascinating about her, is like the amount of pain and suffering and even joy that you could get from listening to one of her songs.
And Pirate Jenny. Are you familiar with that song? You can feel her sense of anger, and it is this long, like almost operatic rendition of a neglected, overlooked hotel worker who is leading a revolution against her employers. And there's a real sense of like satisfaction and she takes you on a full arc with that song. Pirate Jenny is a whole movie in and of itself, in that one song. And as I read her autobiography, and reading her autobiography, it's interesting. She goes out of her way. She dismisses so much of what she accomplished because from the time she was a little girl, her dream was to play Carnegie Hall as a concert pianist playing classical music. She played Carnegie Hall, but not as a classical pianist.
Wow.
And so because that dream never got fulfilled, it felt like she dwelled on that throughout most of her life. It's instructive to us the way that we can be hyper-focused on something to the exclusion of everything else.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the story. That's the story that you could tell. That is what you could focus on, and that's interesting.
She was also just she was dealing with racism. She was dealing with colorism, which in fact the Zoe Saldana film stepped in it. Because Zoe is a light-skinned Latino African person, and that movie got into a lot of hot water by doing that.
Because Nina Simone her complexion was like mine, like chocolate. On top of chocolate.
And it's something that can be awkward to talk about, but it's a real thing. And the existing biopic, that it kind of it represents some of what Nina herself was facing in terms of the colorism. And just the larger just intolerance toward black people and black artists. She was also in a marriage that was defined by domestic violence, unfortunately. She suffered mental illness herself, and there's a really good documentary, What Happened, Miss Simone, on Netflix, that goes into some of this stuff and some of the domestic violence and the mental illness. And she apparently wasn't a very good mother, which, unfortunately, when you're grappling with those other things, that That can happen.
There's so many things you could pull from her life that you could focus on.
Yeah.
And telling her story.
There's also a fascinating anecdote that I is kind of funny. It's also sad.
Mm-hmm.
So she ended her career living predominantly in France and touring around Europe. And she was living in obscurity for more than a decade before she was rediscovered and she put out a new album. But in the 90s, she was a strong-willed woman who had strong opinions, and it didn't seem like she put up with anything, which I love. Apparently, there's this story. I don't know how apocryphal it is, but one of the neighbor kids was making too much noise, and she told the parent, she told the kid, she got sick and tired of it. What do you think she did?
Oh, I don't even.
She had.
I don't know. I know it has to be something terrible.
She had a BB gun.
What?
And she shot at the kid with a BB gun.
All right, so I was thinking she would like throw a shoe or something. throw a shoe or like a book. BB gun?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to people throwing things?
I mean, I'm sure this story is more complicated. So I don't want to throw shade on this woman who I love. Yeah. But she dealt with a lot of stuff, and she has this really fascinating story, much like Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. We just talked about how Bob Dylan, you could do a movie about every 5 years of his life. Yep. You could do a movie about every 5 to 10 years of Nina Simone's life. It would be a fascinating movie.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to focus on, and what audiences will be like. Oh, this is the story I wanted to see about this person. So yeah.
So I concede I may not be the right person to tell the Nina Simone story, but I want to see somebody do it justice. Yes. To do a really good, either documentary, or the documentaries are. Yeah, the documentaries are. But I keep mistaking biopic and documentary. Yeah. I want to see somebody do either a biopic about Nina Simone or even like a mini series.
All right. You heard it here first. We're calling out to all the filmmakers in America, or even abroad. Abroad, yes. Steve McQueen might be a great candidate to do the Nina Simone.
I was also thinking there's this Senegalese director, Mati Diop, who had this really great film called Atlantiques, art house filmmaker. Her father was a filmmaker. She also did a documentary last year called Dahomey, in which was about the repatriation of artifacts to Nigeria. Okay. And included long segments of the artifacts speaking as though they were sentient. Oh, wow. It's a documentary with sentient artifacts. Anyway, I could also see Mati Diop doing a really good version of the Nina Simone story. Although I agree with you, Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen is great. He's one of my favorite. I want to see. He's taken a long break.
He has.
I'm sure he's done. Maybe he's been doing stuff for TV. He's also a visual artist. Like he does photography.
Well, he had a movie last year. Yeah. He had
Then I totally missed it because
it's on Apple TV Plus.
I don't have Apple TV.
Yeah, I have it. If you want to watch it,
I may have to.
It's called Blitz. Okay. He did a movie called Blitz about the London Blitz, following a young person as they're kind of traversing the war zone. Wow. It didn't get a lot of play. It's a good movie. It's not a great movie. Yeah. He actually did a biopic about a Irish freedom fighter, Bobby Sands, who engaged in a hunger strike.
The Hunger. It's called The Hunger.
It's literally called Hunger.
Hunger, yeah.
With Michael Fassbender. And the priest, there's a really wonderful long sequence in that film between Michael Fassbender as Bobby Sands and the priest who visits him during his hunger strike, imploring him not to do it, played by Liam Cunningham. And Hunger is also a really fantastic
Fantastic,
biopic.
yes.
Yeah. And one that is, as I prefer, it's a single moment in time in this person's life. It's not a cradle to grave one. It's about one moment in Bobby Sands' life, a very pivotal one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen, yes. Please, Nina Simone. We're giving you this idea, so take it.
So biopic of Nina Simone, biopic of August Wilson.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And listen, if y'all don't do it, we're gonna have to.
We're gonna have to do it.
That's just the name of the game.
Also, in your for Wallace's great vlog or podcast, is it a vlog, podcast, or
it's a combination. These days, all things are the same.
It's a
Everything
pod
is
vlog.
Content.
It's a pod vlog. I'm making a new word.
Well, yeah. So I post these to YouTube, but I also post them just the audio on podcasts.
Well, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So in the comment section on the page, as the audience, you guys send us some ideas or maybe movies you want to see a biopic.
What are your favorite biopics? Yeah. And what would you love? What
would you like to see? Yeah.
Either who hasn't ever gotten the treatment or got the treatment in like a not so great fashion.
Yes.
Who would you like to see a biopic about?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like and subscribe to this guy's podcast or vlog or pod vlog or whatever we want to call it.
Whatever you want to do
because Wallace is very knowledgeable about film in general, and he's just, I feel lucky that I've had a chance that I'm working with Wallace on projects. So like and subscribe to the vlog or podcast.
The feeling is very much mutual.
Awesome.
And check out River City Stories. You can actually see the trailer on my YouTube page.
Yes.
And if you're anywhere within driving distance of New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, come on out March 7th and March 9th to the West Shore Theater to see River City Stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please come out and support indie filmmakers. So yes.
Support indie filmmakers. Support your local community theaters.
Yes.
We need artists as much as we've ever needed artists. We need artists now.
Yes.
We need good art.
Yes.
Roger Ebert said that movies in particular, but I think this applies to most any art form, are an empathy machine.
Yes.
Exactly. For 2 hours you get to live alongside a character who is completely unlike yourself.
Exactly.
And that is the power of the cinema. I would argue it crosses boundaries. It's not just film.
Yeah.
But
it's in writing and art, visual art, photography, anything, any kind of art medium. We need more of it now. So thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for being here.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's get back to River City.
Let's get back to River City Stories. We got work to do. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys on the flip side.
All right. Be kind to each other. Bye-bye.